My name is Maria Murphy and I'm aged 74.
And I'm Jim Murphy, husband, and I am 83 last week.
We came to Leamington Spa in August 1955, so 69 years ago. The reason that my family came to Leamington Spa, that we came from Ireland and there wasn't enough work for people in Ireland, so my father came to Leamington first and he got a job in Leamington. He was a skilled machine operator and he got a job in Lockheed's and he got a house for us. We all came. There were 5 children. My youngest sister was nearly 1. The next one of us was 3. I was nearly 5. My oldest sister was nearly 7 and my oldest brother was 8. So 5 children under the age of 8. We arrived in Leamington Spa and we lived in a very little house. It was literally 2 up, 2 down, with a toilet in the backyard. And that's how we started off in Leamington.
Family in Ireland, located in Dundalk, East Coast, near the border, on the south side of the border. And my dad worked there as a railway engineer. It was the headquarters of the Great Northern Railway at the time. And in the family, I was the youngest, and there were 2 other boys. The eldest was my brother John, and John was born with disabilities, and he had disabilities all his life. He was that size, never grew any bigger. And then my brother Pat, and then myself. And he moved here on his own to Birmingham, and he was part of what the experts called chain emigration. So he had relatives already living in Birmingham, a brother and a sister. He went to stay with his brother in Birmingham, came down to Leamington, went to Lockheed's, was offered a job, and then set in motion the whole process of coming to Leamington. I was off, went to university in London, and then went teaching overseas. And finally, I came to Leamington. When I finished teaching overseas, I came to Leamington in 1965. And I have a photograph here of myself and my brother Pat on the Campion Hills, both very well dressed, and somehow or other up a tree. That would have been taken in about 1958, I think. Okay. I learned about the Lights in Leamington from my dad because he wrote regular letters to me. He described to me this wonderful event which happened every year when the Lights of Leamington were shown in the garden and there was displays and so on, and he went along to them. One year, when I was visiting him in the summertime, he took me along to see the lights. I think it was 1958, so I would have been 17. Quite often, relatives came over, and my parents would delight in taking relatives around Leamington, showing them the gardens. They loved coming.
Our parents took us to the lights every year, and I've got very vivid memories of going there. We would have entered it from the parade entrance opposite the pump rooms. That we did have to pay. It was more than a penny. I think it might have been a shilling, which is the equivalent of 5 pence today. It was always busy. There were always just hordes of people, crowds of people. You were in a great crowd of people coming around. Yeah. And it was always so welcoming because as soon as you got there, that the visual effect of it would immediately engage you and excite you as a child. Because I was a child, wasn't I? I was, between 5 and 10. What I particularly remember is the old woman who lived in the shoe display. And I remember Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. But they were, what was wonderful about them is they were animated. And there was music and there was lights, and as children we would go around looking at all the different displays and we'd ask each other which was their favourites. What we really liked were, and for some reason, probably because we probably identified with the old woman who lived in the shoe. So I particularly remember, and they moved, that we remember them moving, and then something else would pop up somewhere, and that was the one that most excited me, and you'd be counting all the children and that. So yeah, I think that's the one that, and also that there were animals as well. So the big, not the real animals like squirrels that are running around the Jefferson Gardens at the moment, but there were animals, you know, the animated ones, the character ones. And we just loved seeing them all moving and hearing the music and seeing the light. And we'd then go down to at the bottom part of the Jefferson Gardens, and they would have entertainment there. And also what I remember, that on the river, that there were floating displays. I seem to remember there might have been a band on the water, you know, a group of musicians playing music.
Now, I'm not quite sure if this is what I heard or what I remember, but I can remember a piano player.
Yes,
on the
water.
Oh, yes, you too. Right, okay. A piano player, not rather than a band, actually kind of playing away on the piano, which I just thought it was strange and at the same time wonderful.
And looking back at it now, it was really the most fantastic thing to see.
Yep.
And it was a great big event in the town that we'd say to everybody we would know, and we'd meet people that we knew there, and there were always crowds of people going around. We went every year from when we came, and I can remember when we heard that the lights weren't going to be on anymore.
Right.
And I think I was about aged 11 at that time, and I can remember how disappointed we were that we weren't going to be able to go out and see them again.
Oh, I only saw them once. I had a different interest. I wasn't particularly interested in the fairy tale stories.
Right, like I was.
Like you were. I was much more interested in the clock experience, okay?
Oh, the clock.
Yes.
The floral clock. Did you know that actually told the time?
I did.
Yeah, it was fantastic that they could make that clock with the flowers and tell the exact time.
And my dad, actually being interested in machines and all the rest of it, was particularly interested in them. I can also remember the kind of first impressions of the lights. The ones which particularly impressed me were the lights on the pool with the fountains in it, right? And I can really remember the music which was actually kind of played there. The clock also I remember, and I remember the Jefferson Memorial being lit up.
That was lit up, yes.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how, but I can remember that being lit up.
And did you shout into it? So it echoed?
I still shout into it.
Right.
Yes, I did.
Oh, but also that, I think this bit is right, that at the end of the evening, that there would be a firework display, you know, lit up.
Oh, yes, I remember that too. Yes. And I remember the Pavilion Cafe, going down to see that and the music down there.
Well, the whole thing surprised me. I can remember just being in total awe of it, that anybody could produce something that was so marvellous. So, and every bit as you went along was a surprise. And every year it was a surprise that that could happen.
It spoke of optimism. We'd actually developed a vision of Leamington as being an interesting place, as being an imaginative place, artistic place. If I look back at the 50s, there wasn't a lot of hope around in people's lives. Life was difficult. It took people out of their everyday lives.
The bit that we did particularly like were the ones on the water. And you'd be thinking, well, how do they get there?
Yes.
Particularly on, you know, on the lake part where the fountain is, that, you know, I can look at it now and think, well, there was a platform there and they could go out on that. But as a child, just, you know, the wonder of it, really.